The government has left it to businesses to decide whether to keep COVID vaccine mandates in place and also vaccine passes. But get this, there's no official guidance for businesses at this point, and they're being told to lawyer up in some cases before making any decisions. Here's a bit of Amelia Wade's Newshub story last night. She spoke to employment lawyer Ethel Che. Take a look.
Says what's tricky is not only is there no official advice yet, but no law. So, to summarise,
it is a bit of a mess.
Let's go now to Workplace Relations Minister Michael Wood and National MP Simon Bridges. Good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
Michael, it's a mess.
No, I don't agree with that assessment. We have the same situation that we've had for some time now, which is that individual businesses are able to undertake a health and safety assessment if they wish for there to be a vaccination requirement in their workplace. We will be providing updated guidance in the next few days to keep up to pace with the health advice that's there.
But why isn't that done already?
Same situation,
Michael,
it's been.
You've known, we've known, everybody's known that these mandates, these passes were going to be lifted at some point. Why sit on your hands until the day you make the decision?
Well, that's not happening, Ryan. What I'm saying is that this is the same situation we have had right throughout the course of the pandemic.
No, because
which is that businesses can make these decisions
but with
based
guidance.
on their own health and safety assessment.
Yes,
that's right. And there is guidance that's available. Businesses can contact WorkSafe. It's on the WorkSafe website. But as things change over the course of the pandemic, we update that guidance, and we'll be providing updated guidance soon as well.
So the announcement that you made on Wednesday, that you foreshadowed on Monday, the advice still isn't there today?
Well, there is advice on the WorkSafe website. What I'm saying
is it relevant to the announcement you made on Wednesday?
Well, yes, it's the underlying health guidance that's up on the WorkSafe website, okay? But we at various points, we've updated that WorkSafe because the health advice does at times change over time.
Simon,
we'll be doing that soon as well.
Simon, do you want to cut through the spin here?
Michael is the actual minister in this area, and he can't even tell us. I mean, think about the poor small business owner who's listening to this, tearing their hair out because all they can hear is cost and compliance and confusion, and they are still none the wiser what they're meant to do with their workers, let alone the workers who are unvaccinated and they may be in a process with. So it is a dog's breakfast. I think actually Michael and Jacinda Ardern have a clear obligation to be clear.
Yeah, we've just Googled the WorkSafe website. There's a big red banner over the top of it that reads, what does it say?
A lot like CBDs at the moment.
Yeah, it reads...
It tells you what I just said, Ryan, which is that there'll be updated guidance coming soon.
It's going to be updated. No, hang on. Minister, you said the advice was there. This clearly says there is no updated advice, yet you've got to wait.
The advice is on the website, Ryan, okay? But there's a banner up there telling you that there'll be further updated advice coming soon.
Oh, so the advice is to wait.
And of course, as you've just noted, the My Vaccine passes are in place till the 4th of April. There is advice that is available, and there will be further updated advice that's coming through.
Okay.
The basic situation is the same, which is that workplaces on their own basis can conduct a health and safety assessment, consider the particular risks that are there on their work site, and then make a decision from there.
Okay.
The good news is the rules
there is no guidance.
Well, there is.
No help whatsoever.
I've just pointed you to exactly
Simon, just hold off for a second. Can I just ask, because we do actually have some businesses who are writing into the program who have genuine questions about the changes that you announced on Wednesday. Can employers ask new hires and staff if they have been vaccinated?
Employers can ask new staff if they have been vaccinated, that's right. It's up to the staff member whether they disclose their own personal information, but if they choose not to disclose that information, the employer is entitled to consider that that person is not vaccinated.
And does that mean they can not hire them on that basis?
Well, the workplace, as has always been the case right through this situation, has the ability to set their own policy, and if they make their own policy that vaccination is required, based on health grounds and a good process, then they're able to move forward with that. That has not changed. Remember, most businesses in New Zealand have not had a government mandate through this whole period.
Yeah,
most businesses have been making their own decisions.
Simon, what do you think a good health grounds is when it comes to Omicron? How could you stop hiring people? Yeah.
That's my point, because if there isn't one, it sounds dangerously like discrimination against some New Zealanders. And I think you come back to the point, and I don't claim to understand perfectly the health ramifications of all this. But we come back to the point, what are we trying to achieve here? And if it's a harm-based rule set by the ministers and cabinet, that is one thing. But if it's actually just punishing a group of New Zealanders because we don't like them or their views or something, that to me seems an entirely different thing altogether.
The IPCA, the Independent Police Conduct Authority, is going to be looking into those protests at Parliament, which went really nasty at the end. That's obviously an important thing that needs to happen, and I think all parties would agree with that. But the question is whether we need a wider look at the behaviour of politicians and policymakers and how all this came to being, ending where it did. Michael, do you think that we should be looking wider than what the IPCA is looking into?
Well, look, in the first instance, the IPCA has a very particular role that they have to move forward with. In terms of whether there should be wider consideration about the whole event, look, I'd keep an open mind about that. Obviously, the focus of the government at this time is continuing to keep New Zealanders safe from COVID and move forward with the economic recovery. But we haven't ruled in or out how we might approach that issue. In the first instance, we want to let the IPCA get on with their work without distractions.
Looking back on it, Michael, do you think, given how agitated the crowd was, given the level of anxiety there, do you think the river of filth comment was worth it?
Look, I made that comment, and I made it in a very precise way. And when I spoke, and this is all on record, I expressed considerable sympathy for many of the people who were there, the fact that many of them have had a really hard time, the fact that many of them have been subject to a huge amount of information. But there was behaviour including extreme violence, extreme threats of violence, anti-Semitism, harassment, and it was that behaviour that I was describing.
But you knew,
and I believe
you knew what the headline would be. You knew what the headline would be, though, didn't you? When you said "river of filth." I mean, I guess, did you need to say it? Like, who is benefiting from you saying that?
Well, my view was that behaviour and that extremist element that underlay some of that behaviour needed to be identified. I believe that some of the forces that were gathering there out the front of Parliament were dangerous, were violent, were antithetical to our parliamentary democracy, and I think it was appropriate to call out the behaviour. But again, I point out, I made a distinction between that behaviour and the people themselves, who ultimately we need to try and work with and bring back into our society.
Simon?
Politicians in the heat of the moment get things wrong. Look, I certainly have, so I'm not going to cast stones at poor old Michael in this instance. I think, though, in the end, on that issue, whether it's what the Speaker did, whether it's what Michael said, what they did do is they made the police's job at a level harder. And so in that regard, it would have been better if it wasn't said.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with that, particularly when you've got the likes of Lance Burdett saying that the speaker's actions in putting the speakers on, blasting it through the night and turning the sprinklers on, made the situation worse. And the more that the government ministers opened their mouths and said things like you said, Michael, the more people turned up.
With respect, Simon and Ryan, I think you're beginning to make excuses for some of the most appalling behaviour.
No, absolutely not. No, don't be ridiculous, Minister. I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to have you come on this program and say that we are somehow sympathising with protesters.
Including MPs being harassed, including bricks being thrown at police. Those people have responsibility for their actions, not anyone else.
And do you?
Well, yes, of course I do, and I've just explained exactly my views, and that was to condemn violent and anti-Semitic and inappropriate behaviour. I think those things do need to be called out, but we can do that, and we can also recognise that sometimes people need assistance to reintegrate into our society. OK.
Labour Minister Michael Wood, thank you very much for your time this morning. Also National Party MP Simon Bridges. Simon, is this your last hurrah with us, or are you back for another round?
You just keep inviting me on, and the sucker of punishment that I am, although this one's been reasonably good from my perspective, is I enjoy it, Ryan. I enjoy it.
Good on you. All right, well, we'll see you both back next week